All right, it's October 28th, 2025, and man, the market is on a total knife's edge right now. We are deep in the heart of earnings season, and we've got major players in fintech, pharma, and tech all making some serious moves. So let's break down the playbook for today.
This really is a pivotal day in the third quarter earnings season. So what's everyone asking? It's pretty simple, really. Who's actually moving the needle today, and what's the real story behind these numbers?
Okay, let's kick things off with today's biggest market movers. All eyes are on fintech, where two absolute giants are reporting. And honestly, the results could send some major shockwaves through the entire sector.
First up, we've got SoFi, which reported before the bell. And whoa, the pressure on them is just immense. I mean, look at this. Wall Street is banking on an 80% jump in earnings per share compared to last year. That's huge. Now, that optimism is really coming from their big expansion into new lending products and a major surge in member growth. The bar is set incredibly high, so this is an absolutely crucial test of their whole strategy. Then, after the bell, it's PayPal's turn, and they're facing a totally different kind of test. For them, it is all about transaction revenue. The street's looking for nearly $7.5 billion. But honestly, the real story here is the new CEO. This is the first earnings report since they unveiled their new strategy, so you can bet all ears are going to be glued to their guidance and any talk about improving those profit margins. All right, so with those two big fintech players really setting the stage for the day, let's take a step back and look at the scoreboard. See how some other companies have been doing lately. It gives us a much better feel for the market's mood.
And wow, speaking of setting the tone, you've got to look at Lending Club. They reported last week and just absolutely crushed it. This chart really tells the whole story. Wall Street was expecting 30 cents a share, and boom, Lending Club comes in with 37 cents. A huge beat. So what was the engine behind that? A massive 37% jump in loan growth year over year. That's a really, really strong signal for the whole lending space.
Okay, now for a really fascinating contrast over in real estate tech. Just check this out. In the last 3 months, Zillow is down almost 6%, while Opendoor has just skyrocketed over 240%. So why the huge difference? It probably comes down to their business models. Looks like investors are placing a massive bet on Opendoor's direct home buying approach. It's a perfect example of the market picking very specific winners and losers, even inside the same industry. So, that's the story so far. But hey, the action is far from over. Let's take a peek at who's in the on-deck circle for the rest of the week.
And man, is it a packed schedule. Tomorrow, October 29th, we get Eli Lilly, and everyone's going to be focused on their outlook after that big acquisition. Then we've got Carvana, which is a huge test for their whole rebound story. On the 30th, Roku will give us a really good read on the health of the streaming ad market. Then, the week after, we've got Upstart on November 4th with an update on their AI lending models, Robinhood on the 5th for a pulse check on retail trading, and finally, Affirm on the 6th, where we'll probably hear about their new partnership with Fanatics. Yeah, plenty to keep us busy.
But hey, as we all know, the market doesn't just move on earnings, right? There's always more to the story. So for this next section, let's look at what's happening beyond the earnings call.
And oh boy, the biggest news of the day, hands down, is a total game changer playing out in the pharmaceutical space. Eli Lilly just dropped a bombshell with a major acquisition. So what's the deal? They're scooping up Averum Biotechnologies for up to $12.47 a share. This is a significant move, one that could seriously have ripple effects across the entire biotech and pharma landscape. It's definitely going to dominate their earnings call tomorrow. And speaking of big strategic moves, Nike just laid out its entire playbook at its Investor Day. The key pillars are what you might expect: doubling down on their direct-to-consumer sales, pushing innovation, and focusing on key categories like women and running. But maybe the most interesting part, they actually directly acknowledged rivals like Hoka and On. That's a huge signal that the giant is waking up and ready to fight.
All right, let's pivot over to the world of crypto for a minute. It's a story as old as crypto, right? As Bitcoin goes, so does Coinbase. And with Bitcoin surging lately, it's no surprise that Coinbase stock has been on an absolute tear, up about 10%. But there's a really interesting twist to this story. As the stock is soaring, a big question is starting to pop up. Are the company insiders actually cashing out?
And that brings us to a super important document every investor should know about, the Form 4. It's basically an SEC filing that tells you when insiders, like the CEO or CFO, are buying or selling shares of their own company. And recent Form 4s for Coinbase show that the CEO, the CFO,
and the chief legal officer have all been selling stock. So you see the conflict here, right? You've got this super positive market momentum on one side, but then you have what looks like caution coming from the people who know the company best. It's a classic tug of war.
Okay, that was a lot of moving pieces, I know. So what does it all mean? What should you be watching? Let's pull everything together in our final section, your market watch list. If you're only going to remember 3 things from today, let it be these. First, fintech is dead center in the spotlight. The results from SoFi and PayPal today are going to set the tone for everyone else. Second, pharma M&A is heating up. Eli Lilly's deal is big, and it could be the spark that ignites a lot more activity. And third, the apparel world is an absolute battlefield. Nike is making it clear they're not ignoring the competition anymore. They're responding directly to those fast-growing rivals like Hoka and On.
And before we go, looking ahead to tomorrow, here are a few names you'll definitely want to keep on your radar. Eli Lilly, obviously. The big question is, how is this acquisition news going to color their earnings call? Then you've got Carvana. Can they actually pull a rabbit out of a hat and keep this massive rally going? Bausch Health is also reporting, and their results could tell us a ton about the medical aesthetics market. And finally, Teladoc, which is a really key indicator for the overall health of the entire telehealth sector.
So I want to leave you with a big question to chew on. We're seeing Coinbase ride this huge crypto wave, while its own execs are selling stock. We've got Starbucks dealing with internal labor issues. You know, all of this stuff, it really gets at a fundamental question for any investor. What actually matters more to a stock's future? Is it the powerful market momentum pushing it forward, or is it those internal and competitive pressures that can quietly eat away at its value? Definitely something to think about.